morning. Hey, Stephen G's.
Good morning. Good morning.
Welcome to, if anybody's just tuning in, and I know folks are, welcome to LoveBabz, LoveTalk. I'm Babz Rawls-Ivy, and that's Stephen G's.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. We miss you.
Teacher, filmmaker, Renaissance man, artist. Hello.
Hello.
How are you? I feel like I haven't spoken to you in quite some time.
Yeah, it's been a while. I think, trying to think, I think the last time I saw you was we did an I Am Shakespeare screening, right? Over at Lotta Studio.
Yes, at Lotta Studio.
Yeah. Thanks for doing that.
Yes.
That was great. That was actually great because that was the first night we showed the new cut of the film with the text roll at the end and all that. And anytime you're in the room, I'm in a good place. So I appreciate it. I know we're doing something right when you're around.
Oh man, you're one of the few people who really feels that way. Thank you. I appreciate that. So how are you holding up? Because you're an educator, you're a teacher, and you teach acting. So how is that working for you doing in this medium?
Right. So I know we're all learning on the fly, right? Figuring out some stuff. I think, I guess maybe having a little bit of a film background and also teaching on camera stuff has helped me a little bit with making that transition. But yeah, up at UConn, this is when, for me at least, that's when it first hit, the isolation and teaching virally was up at the university. So I had to transition my film and my theater classes there to online. And those have been going well. The reality of it for me was, especially my film classes, for years, they've wanted me to do that online. It probably makes them more money. I don't know. I don't want to get into the politics of it, but I refused to do it. My students didn't want to do it, especially when, we show films and we do in-depth analysis conversations, and they wanted to all be in the room. So that's how we fought that for a couple of years. But then this, obviously, we didn't have a choice, right? So we had to do it this way. But doing a little preliminary with that helped in that regard. So that's been good. And then obviously over at Neighborhood Music School in New Haven, we all had to make that switch. So I've been slowly making that transition. Some of my students, doing it via Zoom or FaceTime and all that kind of stuff. It's a little different for them, but most of them have been on board with it. Whether I come on and do an actual scene with them one-on-one and break it down that way, and then I can piece some footage together and talk about the pros and cons of what's going on there. But a lot of it is just, especially from the filmmaking standpoint, really just talking about film and analyzing their work. And in a lot of ways, we're getting a lot more work done. I think everyone can say that, right? Everybody's house is as clean as it's ever been, right? So you could attribute that the same way in work, right? Like we're focusing on, let's face it, artists in general, we're all over the place. That's why we're artists. Like we need that, right? We need to be creative. So this in some ways is really kind of pinpointed and isolated. So listen, I've been working on a script, co-writing this script adapted from this book called The Dog Healer. It's 230 pages. I've never written anything more than 2 pages. Like, it's crazy. I've never written anything this long before. I'm not saying it's good, but there's got to be something good in it. So we're getting work done. And more importantly, we're staying home and we're being safe and we're doing the right things. And hoping that, when this is over, we'll get back out there. The biggest thing for me, I know everybody, especially artists, right? We all have our stories to tell and where we've taken hits. And the art community has been really supportive and helping in various ways, including financially. They're doing all they can. It's amazing what the city of New Haven's been doing. Well, Dan. Everybody, what they're doing is amazing. I'm following everybody, right? I'm following everybody. I've been doing more. So I'm like my kid now. I'm on social media more than ever before too. I guess that's helpful too. But the big thing for me was I had a lot of screenings of I Am Shakespeare, the documentary.
Yes.
I had a lot of screenings set up, and those were all obviously social gatherings that all had to get canceled. So lost, in all seriousness, probably lost about 20 events in the last month and a half, including screenings at various festival type settings and screening rooms, and then obviously at schools and universities and things like that. And I was set to be in Chicago and Oakland with the film. So obviously there's no travel right now. So hopefully that can get rebooted once this is all said and done. But like I said, I've been able to figure out a way to teach some classes online, and the university is still going for at least another month. But the film, which is, as you know, is really where I put my main focus on these days. That's
what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
Because when you first came on, I didn't know I knew of the film. I hadn't seen the film. I saw the film.
Yeah.
It stunned me and changed me in ways that still freaks me out. And when I talked to you at that time, Henry Green was still very much alive.
Oh,
and
man.
we had talked about you going further with the film and you had said, well, Henry's a grown man and he's building a life, and and you were very resolute about that. And then he suddenly passes.
Yeah.
And then renewed interest in his story in this film pushes you to deal with this, right? I don't want to say deal with, but pushes you to sort of like revisit this film.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, and we've talked about this before, and if most people know my work, I'm a fictional writer. My films are, sure, they're often based on things of some of my experiences, but they're fiction. And stepping into Henry's world and making this documentary, that changed that changed the landscape for me as an artist, and especially as a filmmaker. But it was fine with Henry. It was on when Henry was alive. I went wherever he wanted to go, and we sort of had that path where he was in front, and I stayed behind, put the camera on, and wherever he wanted to do, wherever he wanted to go, I followed. And I think as a documentary filmmaker, that's what you're supposed to do with your subject. But things changed. Like you said, Henry went into chronic rejection. Soon as we released the film, when we started doing festivals and stuff like that. And for a year, I was out there with the film while Henry was sick, and he had gotten a second transplant. And obviously everyone was pretty optimistic and hopeful, but it didn't work out, as we know. And I don't want to get into all of that, but Henry passed away, and it kind of froze me with that film. I always looked at that film as our film, not my film. And so without Henry around, I needed to kind of just take a step back. And I did. I didn't even look at the film. I didn't think about what to do with it. I tried to work on other projects. I was joking before about writing now, but a year ago I was in tremendous writer's block. I was working on Grace, which is still a development, but it was slow going because my head wasn't all there, because I was obviously dealing with the passing of Henry and what to do with this really amazing documentary that I felt I had co-made and co-produced with him. So I was dealing with all that kind of stuff, and trying to kind of find new avenues, and also just really, taking a breath, right? I needed to kind of take a step back and breathe a little, right? And then once I got the ideas and the momentum going and the support from everybody to get back out there with the film, speaking with his family and with Devaya and everybody, we started to get a sense of what we could do now with the film. So I made a couple of little changes. There's my dog in the background. Made a couple of little changes visually to the film, and obviously not letting people know at the end of the film what's transpired since the making of the film. And then that really started to work. And then we started to get out there with the film, just me kind of learning how to speak about Henry's situation, about how he was dealt with and how he handled his time in the hospital, how he handled his time when he was a young man in inner city. So basically I started to have to speak for this young African-American male. And if you look closely at me, I'm not African American, right? So I wanted to be very diligent about that and wise about that. So I spent some time just researching that. And like I said, I mean, we can all, and you know that, like, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, I've taught in inner city schools, and I've been around that environment, but I wasn't raised in that environment. So I wanted to make sure that when people ask me questions, because let's face it, when you make a film like that, and first and foremost, people are going to be very thankful about the kind of film you just made, and are so in awe of everything that Henry has to say in the film, and it's such a powerful story from Henry. But as sooner or later, the questions start to churn towards me, and what am I going to do with this film, and what am I seeking with this film, and so forth and so on. And these were questions that honestly I wasn't answering prior, because Henry was with me to answer them for me. So the questions were directed towards him and what he could do about racism and poverty and depression, and that became a big thing. And the big focus of the film really has started to be on mental health and the lack of support in the Black community for mental health, and what to do about it when you are depressed or when you are struggling through a hard time, and sort of can't find anyone to talk to about that. So I've been spending the last couple of months down at Yale at the African American mental health department, working with some great people. And that's what we started to build on before this happened, before the pandemic. So we were launching a real strong mental health awareness, working with Channel 1 down in Baltimore, the second largest Black television station after BET. And they have interest in a version of this film now, but also want to do other things to really get into this conversation about mental health in the African American community. So that's been a big part of what's been happening the last 6 months or so.
So do you feel?
Yeah.
So what does this mean for you? Like, I don't know if you would have chosen this path.
I know. Yeah.
It's kind of chosen you.
Yeah.
And try as you may or might, you can't get rid of it. Like, you can't get off of it. I mean, I guess you could, but you as an artist and you as a human, and you care so deeply about this story, that I guess you want to see it to wherever it goes.
Yeah, I think I mean, yeah, it'd be great. And I tried that. Like I was saying earlier, like a year ago, I was like, okay, let's go. You were on the rooftop with me. Let's go make another movie. Let's get some fake characters, and let's get some craft service and bring the boys in from LA and do all that, which I love to do. And I plan on doing again. But Henry was like, not yet. So I've stayed with this project because it does matter to me. But yeah, of course, it's been a shift in how I work, how I spend my day to day, as a filmmaker. But listen, that's what documentaries do. Look, we all, not you personally, but many people have seen Joe Exotic. I mean, everybody, they can't stop. These documentaries just bring our layers and layers and layers, and they could take over. I like to think that this one's a little more important and a little less pop culture.
I think everybody should see it. I mean, it was stunning. It was a part of New Haven that I know nothing about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just not my awareness. It's just not my, it's just not how I grew up. It's just not, but it is very close to my children.
Yeah.
Even though they weren't raised in dire situations, they know people who are in that bubble, right? Who are in that New Haven where it's tough and seedy and challenging, and it's a very different kind of place. And so I had to really pay attention to that in a way that I hadn't before. Yeah. I, like a lot of African American people, if I just moved into a nicer neighborhood and sent my kids to a nicer school, that I would be a bit remote from that undercurrent.
Yeah.
And really, in a city this size, in any city, you're not. I mean, you're just only a block away, right? Like
That's the thing, right?
a
It's so
block
close.
away from a different kind of life, and so that film affected me in that way. Do you have regular ongoing conversation connection with Henry's family?
Mostly, with Devaya, who, Henry was a longtime girlfriend, and then, they got married. Um, so I check in, with Devaya. Um, I was going to see Henry's mom at this screening, Gorman and that crew for the New Haven docs. We had a screening set up out in Hamden at the Whitney Cultural Center.
Hmm.
They were doing a fundraiser, and they had
Yes,
asked if, right, remember that? So it
yes.
seems like a lifetime ago. I mean, that was only supposed to be a couple of weeks ago, but so they had reached out to me to do for a fundraiser if we would do a screening of I Am Shakespeare. And so I was talking to Linda, Henry's mom and everybody. So I was actually looking forward to seeing everybody at that screening. And of course, this is when this happened. So all those conversations and talks froze. But yeah, we have we try to stay in touch as much as we possibly can, for sure. And now, like I said, right now we're just, not that you got to stop working, because you can't. You got to keep going. But obviously, all of our focus right now is on our immediate families and our own personal health.
Mhm. So how
Wearing
does
the
this,
bandana, going out to the grocery store, covered up, doing it all. Right?
which is his own challenge for people of color to keep it.
Yeah. No, I know.
Okay, okay. Is
Yeah,
this some
yeah,
kind of universal quirky joke?
yeah.
Like, you want us to wear a mask and go where?
Yeah, I know. I thought about that. I read that article, and I also was thinking about it the other day when I went in the grocery store, because I put the bandana on, and man, you see all the looks, and I was like, man, there's people who get these looks all the time just for being them, right? Just for walking into a store, and I'm like, why is everyone looking at me like this? And I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. I just wanted to get some bread, I didn't need that, but
So,
that's a
Stephen,
real.
as an artist, because I've been talking to artists for the last 2 weeks since I came back on the air because the WNHHB shut down for a little bit to
Yeah.
reorganize ourselves to get into this to broadcast from this medium. And I spent the first week talking to artists because I believe artists are always the ones that bring us the truth. But I wanted to ask you, as an artist, does this pandemic give you inspiration? Does it hinder you?
Hmm.
Does it make you crazy? Does it feel confining? Does it feel liberating? Does it feel like, what does this feel like? As somebody who is used to having the whole world, at their feet.
Yeah. So it's sort of twofold for me. I was thinking about this the other day. Like, me personally, I do a lot of work from home as a writer. This is where I write. I didn't always work at home as a writer. I couldn't, because home was home. I'd be just too distracted by what's in the refrigerator and things like that. And so I had to leave the house to write. And that was more so when I lived in New York, and it's more that environment. I needed to be out in it to help with my writing. But now, as I've gotten older, I need quiet and solitude. So I'm not a person who's out of the house every day before this all happened. So that part of it wasn't hard for me. But I'm also a person that's constantly out in the community, either with films or as a teacher. And just as a passionate person about New Haven, and likes to be involved in the city. I've been a part of a lot of things with New Haven for a long time since I moved here. So that has been hard to just, like I said, just pop in and out of places and see people. And obviously, like you, I love to talk and I love to converse with people and share experiences, and support businesses and things of that nature, which you don't think about it. I mean, I think you're a lot like me in that way. We have our places in New Haven that we love to go to, and people that we love to talk to, and we do it. It's not like a rare occurrence for people like you and I. Like, I do it every day. I have 20 different conversations that pop into 20 different places. whether it's for a beer or some French fries or some black bean soup at Atticus, like whatever it is, or even just pop in the museum. I don't need to be there for hours. Those galleries are there. I just need it for a few minutes to kind of get my fix and maybe help fuel my artistry. So that stuff, I'm like, oh, wow, that's what a gift that the city gives us. But when it's taken away, like it is now, yeah, that's been a challenge for sure.
Yeah. And when it's taken away, you are acutely aware of what's missing.
Yeah. Yeah. But in other ways, yeah, I think we all have to sort of regroup during this time, focus on ourselves a little bit, and that's never a bad thing. So I've been doing a little bit of that, knowing that when this is done, feel recharged and ready to really make some adjustments. I don't know what those changes will be for the landscape of any, as a filmmaker. I can only talk about my work. I don't know how it's going to affect, how the economy is going to affect business as a whole. I talked to Noah Bloom, the executive director of NMS, the other day. He's working hard to try to figure out what that landscape is going to be for an independent school like that. But I think it's going to be different. I think everything's going to be a little bit different. But I don't think it's going to be bad. I think it's going to be different, and then we're going to make those changes collectively. So I think that's the best thing you could do right now. Listen, first and foremost is we got to stay healthy. We got to make sure people around us are healthy as well, and we don't succumb to any situation that so many people are right now around the country. And we know these numbers are getting worse, and we're going to hit a really high point right now, health-wise. My niece is a nurse in Seattle, so and she's in the throes of it. I heard from her the other day. Yeah, she's it's a little bit of a break for them right now, but they know that it's about to get nuts again for them. So it's an interesting situation, right? Because look, if you're feeling good, if you're healthy, and the sun is shining, things are starting to blossom. It's an interesting time, right? So it's misleading in a lot of ways. So I think we have to be mindful of that, right? And then we know we get through this, because we will get through it, because that's we know that. Then we have an opportunity to do something better with our time. So we'll hug people stronger, we'll smile more, we'll laugh more, and there's nothing wrong with that. So if that's what comes of all this, a little bit more community, a little bit more sharing of time together, then it was worth it, I guess.
So your dad, you got kids underfoot, you have young children. How's the homeschooling? I mean, you're already an educator, right? You're already a teacher, but how are you faring? Because I have friends who have young children, and I've been watching all the memes and all the confessions of parents who are home all day with their children. How's that been for you?
Yeah, so it's been good for me. My kids, every parent says this, my kids are great, but they are good kids. But we also, their mom and I, and their mom's an educator as well. So, we've set up a structure, a schedule where they actually spend more time there doing their schoolwork and things of that nature. We felt it was important for them to have like a routine, a constant routine with their school time. So they have and you've seen all these different ways to do it, but a real set schedule. So that when they do go back, and you're hopeful that they go back this year, they didn't go from just sleeping in bed all day long or till but that they get up in the morning, they have their routines. And I think, and that's the best that you can do right now. So I think the kids have gravitated to, I think for most kids, my daughter's in middle school, so she misses the social, schoolwork is school, like she'll, you put the computer in front of her and she'll go to work, but certainly the social aspect of it, I'm sure she misses a lot,
I can imagine. Listen, I know how it is for me, so I can imagine, kids.
Yeah. Now my son, on the other hand, it's just, it's summer vacation came early in his head in a lot of ways, so here we are. Here we are. Yeah.
So how does this impact the rest of the projects? Do you focus more on other projects? Are you thinking of new projects? Like what is this creative process like when you are shut in?
Uh, yeah. Like I said, I think it, for me, two things happened. One was, uh, like I mentioned earlier, about all the screenings and sort of all the efforts to advocate for I Am Shakespeare and to get Henry's story out there, and really especially in the school systems and things like that. That obviously had to freeze because, as we know, schools are all closed. So once that reality set in, then I had to sort of put my focus elsewhere. So obviously, I've been pushing for the films. You can rent the film. I made that
Yeah.
available and things like that. So I know people are home a lot. So I've been trying to push all my work, because I think that's the thing that sometimes you forget as a filmmaker when you have films. Once you make them, you think, okay, it's done, and I did whatever I did with it. But you know, there there's a lot of content out there, and people are home now and looking to watch things. And also I've been trying to focus on that component of it. And that's the thing, I think artists in general, marketing your films or your art after you've created it is always something that we kind of have to reinvent and relearn, because we're ready to work on something else. So I've been spending as much time with that component of this business. And then also I've been writing. So I was fortunate that I'm co-writing this script with this gentleman who actually lives out in the shoreline. Obviously we have social distance going on now, so we just work at home
Yeah.
separately and just check in with each other. And yeah, so like I said, I'm writing more, good or bad or indifferent, but I'm definitely writing more than I have in a while. So that's all you can do. And I think it's helped me sort of keep my time schedule. I think that's important for our own mental
I was
health.
gonna ask you, do you have a routine? Like, do you get up in the morning, you make your coffee, you have your shower, you shake, whatever it is you do,
There
or
it
or
is.
do you just let the day tell you what it does, or are you disciplined? Are
Yeah.
you
See,
disciplined like that?
I think I don't know. I guess it all depends on who you ask, but I think I've always been somewhat disciplined. My schedule, because I work in so many different, I'm at UConn on Monday and Wednesday. I'm at NMS on the other days. You know, my kids aren't with me full time, but they're here, half the time. So my days when they're here or not here, and I want to make sure I'm here for them as much as I can be. So I try to get all my work done on the days that my kids aren't here. So I've kind of been structured in a disciplined way prior to all this happening. But even with that, I think this time has made me, like you just said, yeah, I do definitely have my routine. This is when I'm going to make my coffee. This is when I'm going to walk the dog. Uh, you know, boy, and dogs really, talk about, people talk about, kids are going to give you put you in a more disciplined world. Man, they're a little more self-sufficient. Boy, Moxie, that's my dog's name. Moxie, she needs her time. So that's been really good to be on a schedule. We had this funny thing going on this morning. She's not eating the food for some reason, like the same food she's been eating for months. Now suddenly today she's like, and we're like, what, don't you understand? Like we can't just go out and get more food for you. So after this, I got to figure that out. I got to figure out why she's not eating. So yeah, definitely. I like structure. I think structure is really important. I think we get a little at night. It can get a little looser because whether or not to make a cocktail or drink wine or keep drinking more coffee. I mean, these are tough decisions. And then what to watch or what not to watch. So those things are a reality right now for everybody. I see all your posts. We've all we're all trying to figure out new things, and that's always if you can walk out of this and sort of pick up a new task a new talent or so, and maybe find a way to apply that to your life after this is all said and done. I don't think I'm going to be asked to be a bartender anywhere, and that's okay. I don't want to be, but I certainly have improved certain skills, and we'll just leave it at that. So it's been good.
Listen, I feel you. I tell you, I'm trying to master this guitar thing because I want to be a rock star, which is this own crazy pipe dream. But that's all right. We do what we do. I got all this time now, so I was like you at night. I'm like, all right, what can I do? All right, so I'm learning Italian. I'm learning Spanish. I'm learning French. You have to do these things. Now you have this time to do these things that you didn't have before because you're so busy.
Yeah. And
so now, are you connecting to other artist people? Like, how is your circle of friends and artist people?
Yeah, I mean, certainly nobody's coming over, but but yeah, I mean, we're definitely staying in touch and talking to each other. And I think, listen, everybody's, like, you made a good point. I think it's when you have those windows of time. I think conversations, listen, no one's in a rush. No one could be like, oh, I got to go. Like, you can't say that now. It's like, where are you going? So you could stay. So everyone talks a little bit longer. Like, you can call them out on that, like, I know you're not going anywhere. So, so I think, but I think it's good because I think then the conversations can get a little deeper. I think that's the thing that I noticed, at least for me. Everyone's different, but things were probably moving a little too fast for me in the past year or so. Conversations were just clipped and work. So I think for me, I've been able to kind of get back to where I think I was, a few years ago, where work was still in development. So I think that's the thing that we sometimes forget, right? Like, once, it's great to have success with work in whatever you do, but sometimes when you're caught up in all of it and you got to keep moving, yourself, your personal self, and the people around you, that stuff can take a hit. I mean, as you mentioned before with kids, kids are good at being like, hey, step back, like, look over here, slow it down. We played a killer wiffle ball game in the backyard the other day. That was pretty sweet, so, that's really important, to sort of like really slow things down a little bit. And like I said, and like, no one wants to be in this situation that we're in right now. But you do have to sort of look at the good from it. And I think for me, the good is that I've been able to slow things down a little bit and really look and really listen and kind of see what else is out there and what people have to say. Like you said, whether it's learning Italian or learning how to be a great mixologist, whatever that may be. But the reason you're able to do that, because they're the same, right? Because they're a passion, they're an interest, and you could slow it down. You got to look at it and sort of infuse it into your routine, and that's been great.
So are you capturing notes or writing anything about this time? Like, are you for your own personal self, or maybe for a future project, or are you doing any of that?
I haven't yet, and mainly because the script that I'm working on, it's set in Argentina. So my focus a lot for myself with my work has been on this script and sort of that landscape. But it's funny that you asked that question, because just yesterday I was doing my writing session, because I do try to like stay on a schedule. Normally I'd be downstairs, I think this time, writing and reheating my coffee because it keeps getting cold. So I'm going to invent something, that's going to help with that. Maybe it's something, if anyone's doing anything right now, if you could figure out how to keep my coffee warm all the time, I appreciate that. So if someone's out there is an inventor, this would be the time to do that. And I would really support that. But now, so and yesterday I was reading over the notes and looking at the script, and I can see the tempo and the style and the language. You know, as a writer, you have a style, you have a sort of rhythm to how you write. And I was like, oh, this is different. It was almost like, is this even me? But it's me now in this time, if that makes sense. And it's different. And I can't say specifically like, oh, that it's different because of the isolation. The language is coming out this way, but it is different. The work that I'm doing now is
That's good that you noticed that, though.
yeah. I just yesterday, it was just something about it kind of hit me. But I think having an acting background maybe has helped with that sometimes, because when I read scripts, I can step out and sort of see it, not in my prose, but someone else's. And that's when I noticed it yesterday. And I was like, oh, I was like, did I write this? I'm like, oh, yeah, I did write. I remember I did write that. But like, so that was an interesting moment. And I think when we're all through this, I'm probably going to see that more, you know, in different things.
So do you think now that you have all this time to think about things, do you think you'll step back on somebody's stage or in front of the camera and not behind the camera, and not the guy that's writing the words, but speaking the words?
Yes. I'm officially announcing I'm coming out of retirement. No,
that's a different conversation than we had last time. Because the last time,
I know
you were very much like, it's behind me, right? Like,
I know it's interesting, but I think that goes back to what I was saying before, which everything was happening. There was so much going on, and things were moving so fast. And for me, when I was an actor, that time, that's all I did. Right. And I needed to slow the world down to really focus on whatever play I was in and my character and going through all that. And I don't want to bore anybody with all that sort of, my method. Right. But my method was such that I needed to sort of shut everything else out. That's how I worked as a performer. Whereas a filmmaker and a father and a teacher, there's no time for that. I just go, 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 go. And I got used to that for well over a decade now of that kind of pace. But during this time, I've been able to sort of, like I was talking about, slowing down and reflecting and breathing a little deeper and a little slower. It reminded me of my time as an actor. And then this other thing happened where over at Neighborhood Music School, people were looking to create content. And so I told the kids this weekend that we're going to make a short film. And so maybe we're going to put all of our sort of work together and kind of see if we can create something that will be great for the community, great for Neighborhood Music Schools community, and also the community at large, but also maybe test my acting chops a little bit, see if they're there at all anymore. But I can't.
They're there.
I don't know. It's been a long time, but you got
to coax them out.
Yeah, I think so. And like I said, I think you and I know a lot of the same people, but I'm just all around the country. A lot of my friends who are artistic directors of theaters around the country and directors and film. I know a few filmmakers whose films were frozen during this time. I mean, I think it really is. It's made us all kind of stop and reevaluate the work that we're doing, and also the work that we want to do moving forward. And for me, yeah, maybe a degree of performance, maybe something I'd like to look into.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very different. This is a whole different kind of conversation. Not totally different, but this is a different conversation than the last time, I must say. I mean, some you have slowed down, and some you've been, you're talking about things that, that were off the table before, but now seem to be.
Yeah. And I may be regretting everything that's come out of my mouth in the last 5 minutes, but you asked the question, and that's where my head is right now. And I think this has probably been a part of it. This time.
Are you surprised by getting to this place? I mean, does it surprise you?
No, I suppose not. I suppose it doesn't surprise me. When I retired from acting, like I think conversations back then, and this is before I knew you and such, my conversations with people at that time, including my agent at the time and people that I was working with in New York, was, I think I might want to come back to this trade again. And then there was never really a reason or a good strong feeling to do it. And obviously my focus on filmmaking and teaching kind of took precedent. But honestly, and I have to give a lot of credit to New Haven, what's been going on with Jacob at Long Wharf and sort of, Dexter at Collective. I mean, I just see a lot of people, Charisse, I've just been seeing a lot of artists in New Haven really pulling the community back together. I lived in New Haven a long time ago when I was younger, and there was a lot of community theater that was really strong and passionate about the work that they were doing. And then, then I was in New York, and when I came back, all that was gone, and the regional theaters, as we know, and I don't want to get into all that, but we know what went kind of wrong, where the wheels came off with the regional theaters. And it's not just in New Haven, it was all around the country. And there was no room for the cities that they were in, they just, everything was jobbed out. Right. And that changed, drastically, for various movements and ideas. And so the theaters now, and like I said, this isn't just happening in New Haven. It's not just what James is doing. It's not just what's going on at Yale and Long Wharf and such. This is going on all around the country. So there are more important things to do with theater right now. And why wouldn't I want to be a part of that?
That's good to know.
Because that's what it was for me years ago, and it seems to be coming back to that. So good. I'm in.
I feel it. I feel it too. I feel it.
Yeah, I know you do. I
feel it. And I'm excited to be anywhere remotely a part of that, and this telling of stories and community and rising voices. So, so I'm glad to know that I might buy a ticket and see you on stage.
Sure. I mean, I don't think he's going to hire me, but I know I got to put a reel together. I don't know what I got to do. Headshots. No, the digital world. I got to figure this all out. But is this an audition?
You got time.
I got time. I'll put it all together. I know.
So tell people how to find I Am Shakespeare. Where can people, while we're watching and Netflixing and Hula and all this other kind of stuff. Nice. Sure.
Look at me. Is this what we do? It's branding. So IamShakespeareMovie.com is where everything about the film is. It's a great website for the film, including how you can rent the film. I know you're home, so and it's an important film, and more importantly, on that website is also the visitors guide to it. It's like 25-page curriculum it's used predominantly for the school systems when we speak in schools, but I think individuals can get a lot out of it as well. So this is what I'd love for people to go to IamShakespeareMovie.com, rent the film, and then reach out to me after reading and going through the viewer's guide and have a conversation with me. I'm here. And I have the time, like Babz just said. So I'd love to talk to you about Henry's story and what you think about it.
Yes, I think that's a good idea, and I want this film to be seen by so many people. I mean, it's such a necessary film. I mean, it really is a necessary film, and I think one of the better films out there that talks about what is going on in these streets with young people and the decisions that they have to make and are forced to deal with. I don't think people, I mean, of course we have all these films, Boys in the Hood and all that, but this is somebody's real story.
Yeah.
This is a real story.
Yeah.
And,
I appreciate that. Yeah. So it's there, and once again, like if those have seen the film, they know exactly what we're talking about. But if you haven't seen the film, watch it as soon as you can, and get on board with us, and like I said, and have the conversation with it. You know, Henry and I always used to say when making this film that the idea and the focus of this film was the conversations that we would have after making the film, and that the making of the film was the beginning of the conversation, not the end of the conversation. So that's why I kind of continue with that, you know. So I say that's why I still got to try to sneak in my acting career that's been thrust upon me. But I'll figure it all out. Yeah, I'll figure it out.
You have time.
I have time. I have time.
Time. Yeah. And the beard and mustache looks nice.
I just trimmed it up yesterday. It was getting a little like we're you know.
Very distinguished.
The beard thing, yes. There it is. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time, Stephen Dest. I appreciate this.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate everything you do. You know,
I enjoy talking to you.
I'm your number one fan. I know you hear that all the time, but I'm the one. I am the true number one. I appreciate it so much. It's been great to be able to have a connection this way and via social media. Like I said, I got to swing by your porch.
Yes.
How about those real quick? How about Chris Randall's shots? How about those porch?
Oh my God.
Hey Chris, if you're watching or if you check this out, or if someone tells you, man, just love that idea. I love what you've been doing during this time. So many people that I'm a fan of in the art community in New Haven been doing some really great stuff, and I appreciate it.
I'm telling you, that's probably one of my favorite things out of all of this. I was so moved by it. I just thought it was the coolest. It came at the right time when people sort of needed to feel connected, because we were at the beginning of this social distancing and people didn't know what the hell to do.
What to do, yeah, how to do it, yeah.
And he was like, I'll come by and shoot you on your porch. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, I'll just drive by and take a shot. I was like, okay.
And you know, who better to do it than Chris, right? So
yes, and you know what? It came out of his own desire to do something for his own self. Like he wasn't thinking like, you know, what I mean, he was thinking that, but he was thinking, I have to get out of this house. I'm happy when I have my camera. How can I do what I love in the midst of this social distancing?
I think so. You know, and I don't want to speak for him. And Chris, if I say something out of turn here, like let me know, you know, privately. Don't call me out publicly. But I think Chris and I, I think Chris and I were similar a few years back. We were just yes, and all over the place, like go. And I think for himself, I know for me, and I've talked to other people about this, you know, sometimes you need to do that because that's the time to do it. But to be able to sort of slow down and sort of reprocess and rethink about how your work should be done and how you want to do it. I think if I didn't do that, I Am Shakespeare wouldn't be what it is. You know, that film would not be the film that it is today. And I see it similar with Chris. You know, he's the work that he's doing now is just amazing. And not his work wasn't always amazing, but I think you know what I mean. You know, when you slow down,
I do know.
This is how I want to do it, and this is how I'm going to do it. And maybe this time is affecting all of us that way because it's slowing us down. But in a good way. You know, you just got to stay optimistic about it. And you know, and do the right thing, do the right work. Oh, did I just quote Spike Lee? Which, by the way, fun fact, the last time I acted was in a Spike Lee joint, as he used to say. That's film for you kids. So, So, it was Summer of Sam, which was the film about the son of Sam. And shot out in Brooklyn. Yeah, so I played a reporter. I remember, you know Chris Arnott, right? So I remember really quick. So I remember Chris, and Chris, if you hear you'll be like, I can't believe you remember that. But he wrote a blurb about the role I had in that film, where he goes, I was a 1970s reporter dressed like a pimp. And I used to say, but in the 70s, everybody dressed like a pimp. You know, doctors dress like pimps. Like that's just how everybody. I see photos of my dad, and I'm like, oh, my dad was a pimp. It's like, no, he wasn't. No, he sure looks like it, but that was just the style. So I got to.
You are absolutely right. Everybody looked like a pimp in the 70s.
Good look. That's a good look. It's coming back.
It's coming back. Okay, no, let's not let it come back.
It's not coming back. All right.
Thank you, Stephen D. You are a pleasure.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you so much. Harry, I'm on my way out. If you want to play, if you want to cue up the music. Peace and blessings, Stephen.
Thank you. All right. I'll see you later.
Yes.
Love.